Good things grow in Ontario. Once upon a time, it was a slogan and music jingle that evoked wholesome emotions that just about everyone across the province knew. But today, it's not so good to grow in Ontario, or to grow up in Ontario, to be precise. That's because in this province, social experimenter-in-chief Kathleen Wynne and her Liberal government are your co-parents.
And we do work hand in hand with these families because we co-parent.
In this Canadian province, our ruling class believes that our children are their property. It's why, despite mass parental protests, Premier Kathleen Wynne doubled down on her radical sex ed curriculum, a sex ed program that begins for kids as young as 5 years old and introduces them to ideas like made-up gender theory and anal intercourse before they're even out of grade school. I mean, Ontario's Liberal government loves co-parenting so much, they've even gone through great lengths passing actual legislation to remove the words mother and father from not only our birth certificates, but from all provincial legislation altogether. But now, they're actually taking it one step further because apparently semantics and the classroom, they just weren't enough. Now, Kathleen Wynne's Liberal government is making a totally unprecedented intrusion into your home. Now, if you haven't already heard of Bill 89, then you're going to want to pay close attention, but please brace yourselves. Bill 89 codifies the Ontario government's belief that children belong to the state, not their parents. If passed, Bill 89 will repeal and replace the existing Child and Family Services Act. That's an act of hugely significant import, governing everything from child protection services and foster care all the way to adoption. However, rather than promoting welfare as it purports to do, Bill 89 is a totalitarian bill, giving the state incredible powers to seize Ontario children from their families for the sake of gender ideology, while preventing religious parents from ever adopting or becoming foster parents. Now, the bill is 329 sections long. It's a really hefty bill, and there is a lot that is wrong with it. But if you will, just let me show you some of the most disturbing and subversive parts of this proposed legislation. So the first thing that you're looking for when it comes to this bill is what makes it different from the act that it seeks to replace, right? And well, the first thing that jumps out at you is religion is totally erased and gender ideology is now introduced. In the sections concerning matters to be considered in determining the best interest of the child, the religious faith in which the child is being raised is deleted as a matter to be considered. Instead, the following list of factors is included: race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, family diversity, disability, the amorphously termed creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Now, if you're not already yelling at your screen, let me explain why this change in phrasing really matters. One of the reasons can be found in these sections right here. Bill 89 includes a lengthy description of a child in need of protection, i.e. where Child Protective Services intervention ought to take place. Now, among that long list includes the description of a child who is at risk of suffering mental or emotional health. Now, one whose parent does not provide, quote, treatment or access to treatment is thus defined as a child in need of protection. So, a thought experiment to make this legislation clear. Little Tommy comes home from his third grade class in Ontario, where he's just learned about all the new and made-up genders du jour. He then says, "Hey, Mommy, I'm a girl now. I don't like my penis anymore. I want boobies and new pronouns." Now, as a parent in today's Ontario, while you have no say in your child's classroom, you do have a say in your own home. But under Bill 89, you lose that right. In fact, according to Section 73, if you fail to provide the treatment or access to treatment that your child now demands, you are working against his or her interests, which include gender identity and gender expression, as outlined in Section 1. And so since your child is now considered a child in need of protection in the eyes of the state, according to Section 34, the Children Aid Society must now investigate you and should the children's aid worker, who, by the way, is neither police nor a doctor, should the children's aid worker simply follow the law, Bill 89, and find, yes, little Tommy is in need of protection by definition of the law because you have failed to use his new pronouns that he demands and provide him with hormone blockers, then, according to Bill 89, a court is to issue orders with respect to care for your child, which can include, but is not limited to, placing your child in the care or custody of another person subject to the supervision of the society, or placing your child in interim or long-term society care. Now, an important asterisk here. Bill 89 also adds this line, including the words, wherever possible, in describing child services interventions. This is a radical break from the past and a clear signal that Children's Aid Society intervention is to be more readily provided and will not be presumed to be disruptive. But back to little Tommy. You're probably thinking at this point, now that my child's been taken from me, where will he end up? I want to see him again, but in the event I don't, I pray his foster or adoptive parents are going to be good people. Well, they might be good people, but they're probably not going to be religious people. In the parts of Bill 89 which describe adoption and adoptive licensing, again, religious faith is struck out of consideration for what is relevant for the child. But don't you worry, gender identity and gender expression are there. Translation, if little Tommy was raised in a home where Christmas and Easter were celebrated and church was part of his Sunday schedule, that won't matter when looking to place him in an adoptive home, and woe to any adoptive parent who won't indulge his new pronouns and hormone-blocking hopes. Now that Tommy's decided to identify as a girl under Bill 89, it would seem, when it comes to who can foster or adopt children, well, all parents are not considered equal. And another small asterisk here, if you think creed and religion are the same thing in this bill, think again. Take this example. According to Bill 89, the parent of a child in care retains the right to direct the child's or young person's education and upbringing in accordance with the child or young person's creed. That replaces the phrase to direct the child's education and religious upbringing. Translation, Bill 89's use of the amorphous language is not without reason. Rather, its aim is a colossal reduction in parental authority. In the new phrasing, the parent's authority is instead limited by the child's creed, or whatever the child tells the care worker their creed is or is not. Finally, in the event you weren't already convinced Bill 89 is in and of itself breathtaking in its embedded totalitarianism, well, it gets worse. At any point, the minister in charge of the portfolio can make this Liberal government's home invasion more sweeping and more severe. That's because Bill 89 gives the minister massive regulatory powers in which at any point and for any reason, the minister can create regulations governing how service providers making decisions with respect to matters of your child's gender identity and expression in your home are to even be taken into account, and accordingly, how to conduct their jobs. Folks, I was floored the first time I read this bill. Bill 89 is an unprecedented government intrusion into Ontario homes. It is an unprecedented government intrusion into decisions about how families wish to raise their children. It pushes gender identity onto Ontario children. It makes unscientific gender theory the law of our homes. It removes protective language surrounding a minor's religious faith, and it persecutes adoptive and foster parents of faith, and perhaps most disturbingly, it grants the state sweeping new powers to remove children from their parents' and guardians' custody. And yet, Bill 89 just passed its second reading in the Ontario legislature without a single dissenting vote. Even opposition parties, whose job it is to oppose government legislation, something I must have misunderstood, even they have consigned under this totalitarian bill that turns our province's children into pawns in Kathleen Wynne's political game. But just because not a single elected member of provincial parliament is going to stand up to Kathleen Wynne's legislative home invasion doesn't mean we the people have to remain hostage to things like party politics, and sick social experiments. I've started a petition at leaveourkidsalone.ca. If you want to keep the government and unproven gender ideology out of your home, if you believe in parental rights over state rights, if you're ready to stand up to Ontario's Liberal government and tell them to back off and butt out of your relationship with your kids, go to leaveourkidsalone.ca and have your voice heard. For the Rebel.media, I'm Faith Goldie. If you agree with this petition, please be sure to send your friends and family to leaveourkidsalone.ca.